Last month's massive layoffs at Activision Blizzard left an estimated 800 employees without a job, and a document spotted by Gamasutra Insider has information on how those layoffs were felt at Overwatch developer Blizzard. According to a worker adjustment and retraining notification 1 filing, spotted by the publication, 209 Blizzard employees were let go as a result of Activision Blizzard's layoff wave. It's a sobering look at which specific roles were affected and which departments were doomed to have redundancies after Blizzard parent, Activision Blizzard, clocked a record year. On a department-by-department basis, it was hit hardest by the case with 41 people laid off across all of Blizzard's locations in the United States. Following after that, marketing saw a loss of 29 staff members between Blizzard's Irvine, California and Austin, Texas offices. The live experiences teams in Irvine, Burbank, and Austin also saw 29 people laid off as well. HR saw 18 people let go. Global Insights saw 15 staff laid off. North American Publishing lost 12 people. QA lost 11 staff. Latin America Publishing was cut by 10 positions. The web and mobile team lost 9 people, and the finance and commercial teams lost 8 staff. The Warren finding also mentions layoffs related to Activision, including 7 people laid off from Activision Publishing and Blizzard's consumer products team, 5 laid off from the Battle.net team, and the facilities department laying off 3 staff members. This does not include the 100 Blizzard support staff that were offered a cash offer of a year's pay to walk away from their jobs at Blizzard Entertainment's core office 2 months before parent company Activision Blizzard announced the layoffs. As Gamasutra Insider points out, the current tally of known cuts has not yet met the estimate of 100 affected developers. Incorporated looting closures like King's 2 Live Studio and San Francisco office. Around 500 or so positions have been publicly cut from Activision Blizzard and its subsidiaries in the last month. In a statement sent to Gamasutra Insider after it published the contents of the Warren filing, a Blizzard representative said the following: "We are unable to provide additional details beyond what we have publicly disclosed. While the changes were difficult, they were important for supporting our current game development priorities, which will serve as the foundation for Blizzard's future. This will ultimately put us in the best position to create epic, high-quality content and entertainment experiences for our players around the world." At its core, public relations is largely about creating consistency. Anyone who has been in a PR meeting has heard the word drumbeat more than once. Create a steady pulse of news to stay in front of your audience. Silence equals a slow, painful descent into anonymity. This is inconsistent with the world of gaming, which, far better or worse, has long development cycles, followed by extravagant launches than silent voids. If PR strives to be John Bonham, keeping time and the drums, gaming is Jimmy Page, wowing audiences with wild crescendos of shock and guitar solos. Connecting these two can be tricky. The newsworthiness lifespan of a game is debatable, but you should be able to keep your game in the discussion for at least a year by breaking it up into 3 phases: pre-launch, launch, and post-launch. For the sake of this article, I will be speaking to small to mid-sized developers, as the rules are different for established and public developers. Pre-launch. The pre-launch portion of your PR program should start about 3 months before launch. The main goal of this period is to build up buzz for your impending launch, and, if possible, let players know when the game will be available. You do not need to be making announcements or hire outside help at this whole period, but you should be thinking about which news beats you want to hit and when. In this phase, you will need to give people reasons why they cannot ignore your game. You should think of this like a missile payloads you want to deliver and details about the game, some slick screenshots, and hopefully a cool pre-launch trailer. The actual missile you will need to deliver these are news items. The news items here are usually launch dates, studio formations, key hires, and asset distribution. Announcing your game's launch date is an obvious point for press. But most people will not actually care about this unless your studio has a strong track record. You are working with a known IP, or there's some established talent behind your game. If you do not check those boxes, it's fun to leave a vague launch window and focus on other components in the pre-launch phase. If you do have those, you will want to announce the launch date in conjunction with the game trailer, some assets, and offer at least one spokesperson to share some details about the game. Outside of the launch date, there are other beats that fall into the pre-launch phase. If you are forming a new studio around the game launch, press might care about that. The studio announcement should have a distinct mission statement which clearly telegraphs your game. General statements like, making a real lift on mobile games, will not turn any heads. The studio announcement works even better if you can announce that established talent will be joining the studio. If anybody on your team has worked on cool games before, ideally in a leadership role, you should be screaming that from the mountaintops. Partnership news also works in this phase. Let people know if you are partnering with another company to bring an IP, a known brand, to mobile launch. The game launch is the most important and simplest phase of your game's PR life cycle. Your goal here is to get a lot of people talking about and reviewing your game. Generally, this phase takes place a month ahead of launch and a few weeks after launch into concurrent cycles news and reviews. The news portion of your game's launch entails letting people know that your game is live and giving your main pitch about why people should play it. This is where you roll out of all your best assets, a trailer with gameplay and cinematics, carefully crafted screen grabs that draw players in, and an intriguing press release that gives it everything they need to cover your game. This stories to cover the basics of your game and possibly include some editorial about his gameplay. However, the majority of your reviews will probably arrive after the game has launched. Game review embargoes are one of the most contentious aspects of games PR. They are usually reserved for big-name AAA games, and even then, they come with plenty of issues that we do not need to cover here. However, in conjunction with your launch materials, you should definitely offer press early review builds of your game, starting 2 to 3 weeks ahead of launch. For mobile games, it's more common for reviews to publish in the weeks and months following your launch. For reviews, it's your job to be totally available to reporters and quickly answer any questions and get them whatever they need to fully understand your game. Post-launch, at this point in your game's PR cycle, you have been chugging along with that drumbeat for a couple of months. Ideally, you have built some pre-buzz, had a successful launch, and your game is thriving in the app stores. At this point, the game enters my personal favorite phase, post-launch. Depending on your game's success, the post-launch phase can continue indefinitely, but for most games it will last 3 to 6 months. During the post-launch phase, the things you should be talking about are the game's success, how your players are interacting with the game, and lessons you learned creating the game. A product update may also be newsworthy if it significantly impacts gameplay Momentum is a natural news. Be it a successful game. The trick is figuring out what momentum you want to share and when. If you can share any large figures about downloads or revenue, those are typically the crown jewels worth covering. Beyond that, you could try talking about more granular stats like DAU, ARPDAU, and LTV. If sharing something that proprietary makes you nervous, there are plenty of in-game metrics you can dig up like cumulative levels passed, enemies killed, lives lost, etc. Those are less interesting to press. But if you package them well and catch somebody on a slow news, then you have still got a shot. This phase is also a great time to share your development wisdom with the world. Think about what interesting problems you solved while creating your game. What compelling tech you created.